Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Pulp Crazy. I'm your host, Jason Aiken. In this week's episode, I'll be discussing The Wolf Woman, written by Bassett Morgan. This story first appeared in the September 1927 issue of Weird Tales, where it was the cover story that month. The cover was illustrated by C.C. Senf. Bassett Morgan was a pen name for Grace Morgan Jones. She wrote several stories in Weird Tales under this pen name. Weird Tales was the primary pulp she wrote for, but she did have stories appear in Ghost Story, Oriental Stories, and a few others as well. She had stories published in the pulp magazines from 1926 to 1936. What led me to this story was actually a Google search I performed for Weird Tales covers earlier in the week. C.C. Senf's cover really jumped out at me, and I wondered if I had the story in reprint form somewhere. I've collected a decent number of Weird Tales reprint anthologies, so I figured I might have it in one of them. As luck would have it, I did. I read The Wolf Woman in Weird Vampire Tales, 30 blood-chilling stories from the Weird Fiction Pulps. It's an anthology that was edited by Robert Weinberg, Stefan R. Dziemianowicz, and Martin H. Greenberg. Out of the 30 stories that were reprinted in this anthology, 17 are from Weird Tales. According to the introduction to The Wolf Woman in Weird Vampire Tales, Morgan was known to Weird Tales readers as an author obsessed with brain transplants. Apparently, half of her 13 stories in Weird Tales had to do with this subject matter. The introduction also states she liked to set her tales in the South Seas. But for The Wolf Woman, she chose Alaska. This story seems to take place in the Alaska contemporary to the time it was written. So Alaska isn't a state yet, it's still a U.S. territory. The Wolf Woman is a mashup between a vampire tale and an Arctic adventure. It follows a team of explorers, led by Lieutenant Cressy, who are trying to recover the frozen body of a mountain climber. That seems like your run-of-the-mill Arctic adventure, but the weird element comes into the story in the form of team member Professor Stamwell. The professor is the one really driving this expedition. His goal is to test a concoction he's developed on the entombed frozen body of the mountain climber to see if it will bring it back to life. The team's main objective is to find the missing climber and try the concoction on him, but they come across more interesting test subjects along the way. The group find a young blonde woman entombed in ice. She's surrounded by several large white wolves. Apparently they've been frozen for over 100 years in this grotto. The team begin the process of thawing them out one by one, starting with the large wolves, who are around 11 feet in length, and they apply the professor's concoction to them. Needless to say, the process is a success, but the team would have been better off leaving the woman and her wolves encased in ice. I won't go into spoiler territory, but a tale that blends the supernatural and science fiction follows. You have the science fiction element of the professor's concoction resuscitating frozen flesh, and the vampiric supernatural abilities the young woman possesses. The source of her abilities is never really explained. It's left up in the air if this young woman always had these abilities, or she gained them upon returning from the dead. I got the impression that she always had them, though. There are some supernatural staples that get mentioned in this story. Ghosts not being able to cross running water. I've also heard vampires aren't able to cross running water as well. And there's the use of crucifixes to ward off evil. That's used in this story too. That's to name just a few of them. One technique I wasn't familiar with, though, was using windflowers to ward off evil. Apparently in some cultures, windflowers are thought to be formed by angels' tears. I thought that was pretty cool. Overall, this was a pretty solid weird tale. I thought it was a little bit long, though. It's roughly 20 pages in length, but I think it could probably have been trimmed down a few pages. Another downside is, unfortunately, Morgan chose to spell out the speech of the guides phonetically. The guides are called Indian Canadians. I'm guessing they're the same people we know as Eskimos today. Her choice to actually spell out their speech phonetically, it's a little offensive, and it also makes the story harder to read, as you have to decipher what the person's trying to say. But if you're into Arctic exploration and vampire tales, definitely give this a shot. It's not a bad short story. It's entertaining enough, but it's not the best weird tale I've read either. I'd say it's about average. So give this a shot if it seems like it's up your alley. Well, that's it for this week's episode. Pulp Crazy is located at pulpcrazy.com. I'm at Pulp Crazy on Twitter and facebook.com/pulpcrazy. My YouTube channel is located at youtube.com/pulpcast. You can also email me at pulpcrazy@gmail.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.